Hey guys, this will be my last night of this week reading 39 Clues. You can find me live on the Kalichi Schools page tomorrow night to read everyone a story. Chapter 7. A mile away in Copley Square, Irna Spassky, codenamed Team 5, was worrying about her poison. She had loaded her fingernail injectors with the usual mixture, but she feared it would not be enough for this meeting. Back in the Cold War, she and her KGB colleagues used poison-injecting umbrellas or spray-painted toxins on toilet seats. Those were the good old days. Now Irna worked by herself, so she had to keep things simple. The needles extended when she bent back her fingers at the first joint. They were almost impossible to see and caused only a tiny pinprick sensation. The poison would leave her victims very sick, perhaps paralyzed for many days, enough to give Irna a good head start in the search. Best of all, the poison was completely untraceable and had no antidote. Unfortunately, it was slow acting. Her victims might not show symptoms for 8 hours or more. If she needed to incapacitate her enemies quickly, she would have to rely on other means. Ian and Natalie Cabra were not to be underestimated. Back when they were 10 and 7, perhaps Irna could have overpowered them. Now they were 14 and 11. A very different story indeed. She wandered Copley Square, waiting to spot them. They had agreed on standard anti-surveillance tactics, only setting a general area and time for their rendezvous. The storm clouds had cleared. It was a beautiful summer afternoon, which Irna hated. All this sunshine and flowers and children playing, bah! She preferred a steel gray winter in St. Petersburg, a much better climate for espionage. She bought a coffee from a street kiosk, then spotted Ian and Natalie across the plaza, walking in front of the Trinity Church. Their eyes met hers briefly, and they kept walking. Irna's move. She followed them at a distance, checking to see if they had grown a tail. Any surveillance, any followers, any possible angles for photographers. After 15 minutes, she saw nothing. She waited for them to turn and see her. As soon as they did, Irna turned and walked off. The game reversed. She led them across the plaza toward the library, knowing they would be watching for tails on her. If they saw anything, Ian and Natalie would disappear. The meeting would be aborted. After 15 minutes, Irna changed course and noticed the Cabras across Bolston Street still shadowing her. This meant she was clean. No surveillance. The children turned toward the Copley Plaza Hotel, and Irna followed. They met in the busy lobby where neither party could ambush each other. Natalie and Ian looked much too relaxed, sitting across from each other on overstuffed sofas. The little brats had changed out of their funeral suits. Ian wore a sky blue polo shirt, beige trousers, and tasseled loafers. Natalie wore a white linen dress that showed off her coffee skin. Their eyes glittered like amber. They were so lovely they made heads turn, which was not a good thing for a secret meeting. "You attract too much attention," Irna scolded. "You should be uglier." Natalie laughed. "Is that what keeps you alive, dear cousin?" Irna wanted to scratch the young whelp's face with her poisoned fingernails, but she kept her cool. "Insult me as you will. It gets us nowhere." "True," Ian said. "We have a mutual problem. Please, sit." Irna considered. She would have to sit next to Ian or Natalie, and neither was safe. She chose the young girl. Perhaps she would be easier to overwhelm if it came to that. Natalie smiled and made room for her on the sofa. "Have you considered our proposal?" Ian asked. Irna had thought of nothing else since the text message came 2 hours ago on her cell phone, encrypted in an algorithmic code used only by the Lucians. She nodded. "You have come to the same conclusion as I. The second clue is not in Boston." "Exactly," Ian said. "We've told our parents to charter us a private jet. We'll be off within the hour." Chartering a private jet, Irna thought resentfully. She knew the Cabra's parents from the old days. They were internationally known as art collectors. Once they had been dangerous people, important people within the Lucian branch. Now they were retired in London and did nothing but dote upon their children. They let Ian and Natalie do all the traveling, writing them blank checks as needed. What did these brats care about the 39 clues? This was just another adventure to them. Irna had her own reasons for hunting the treasure, much more personal reasons. The Cabras were too rich, too smart, and too proud. Someday Irna would change that. "So," Irna said, "where will you go?" Ian sat forward and laced his hands. He didn't look 14 years old. When he smiled, he looked evil enough to be an adult. You know it's about Benjamin Franklin. Yes? Then you know where we're going and you know what we're after. You also know, Natalie purred, that we can't allow the secret to fall into anyone else's hands. As Lucians, we should work together. You should set the trap. Irna's eyes twitched the way it did when she was nervous. She hated that it did this, but she could not stop herself. You could set the traps yourself, she said. Natalie shook her head. They would suspect us. You, on the other hand, can lure them to their doom. Irna hesitated, trying to see a flaw in the plan. What is in this for me? They're our biggest threat, Ian pointed out. They may not realize it yet, but they will in time. We have to eliminate them quickly. It will benefit all of us. Besides, you'll have the Lucian stronghold at your disposal. Afterwards, there will be time to fight each other. Now we must destroy our competition. And the Madrilles? Irna asked. She thought she saw a ripple of nervousness cross Ian's face, but it passed quickly. One enemy at a time, cousin. Irna hated to admit it, but the boy had a point. She examined her fingernails, casually making sure that each of her poison needles were primed and ready. Does it seem odd to you, she asked slowly, that the Lucian database contains so little about Franklin? She knew very well they would have logged into the branch's mainframe, just as she had done. Annoyance flickered in Ian's eyes. There should have been more, it's true. Apparently Franklin was hiding somewhere, even from his kin. Something, even from his kin. Natalie smiled coldly at her brother. A Lucian who doesn't trust his kin. Imagine that. So kin means family. Ian waved at her comment aside. Complaining about it will change nothing. We need to deal with Amy and Dan. Cousin Irna, do we have a deal? The hotel doors opened. A heavyset man in a brown suit strode through, heading for the front desk. He seemed out of place, possibly a security guard or an undercover policeman. It might have nothing to do with them, but Irna couldn't be sure. They had sat here too long. Meeting any longer would be dangerous. Very well, Irna said. I shall prepare the trap. Natalie and Ian rose. Irna felt relieved and perhaps flattered, too. The Cabrits needed her help. She was, after all, much older and wiser. I am glad we've came to an arrangement, she said, feeling generous. I did not wish to hurt you. Oh, we're glad too, Ian promised. Natalie, I believe it's safe now. Irna frowned, not understanding. Then she looked at Natalie, that pretty little girl who seemed so harmless in her white dress, and realized the young she-devil had a tiny silver dart gun cupped in her hand, not 2 inches from Irna's chest. Irna's heart skipped a beat. She had used such guns herself. The darts could carry poison far worse than she dared to keep in her fingernails. Natalie smiled prettily, keeping the dart gun aimed and ready. So good to see you, Irna. Indeed, Ian said smugly. I'd shake your hand, cousin, but I hate to ruin your special manicure. Do let us know when Amy and Dan are eliminated, won't you? Oh, that was a short chapter, folks. All right, well, we will get started with our learning on Tuesday. It sounds like the plans may have changed for you guys coming to pick up your items, so stay tuned to Class Dojo and further messages from me. All right, thank you.